One type of fighting game super move that sticks out in my head is when a character can grow to a much greater size, does a little cutscene or animation, and then goes back to normal since it would be unfair if they stayed that size the rest of the match. And I guess they also can't maintain it with their power or some other excuse. Regardless, I don't think there's a classification for this type of super, so I'm just calling it the Get Big Super and ranking my favorites. Simply, these characters go all kaiju on the opponent for a few seconds when their super move is activated, mainly just going off the cool or funny factor here, who entertains me the most, and since it's not that common of a super, I'll allow multiple characters per series, but one character per game of origin, so if a fighter got big in a sequel game that wasn't in the previous game that also had a character that got big, they're both eligible. Now, let's size up the top 10 Get Big super moves in fighting games. Number 10. Injustice, being the DC Comics fighting game series, has done a few Get Big supers in each of their 2 games, so I would say it's enough where this franchise loves doing it the most. For the first game, it was hard to pick one of the 2 options, since both used the size upgrade just as a finishing blow, being Martian Manhunter and Ares. But ultimately, I'll give it to Ares, since we do see him use his godly powers to grow, rather than him just appearing big out of nowhere like with Martian Manhunter's super. Ares, being the god of war who is also a Wonder Woman villain, starts the super by taking you to his realm, where he has an army ready, cause why not? He gives them the command of Ruha to fire a bunch of arrows, which feels like a total waste since you only need like 1/10 of that, but I guess it prevents the opponent from dodging any which way. And then when the opponent is sufficiently pin-cushioned, he turns into a giant since he's a god and such, and smashes his hand down on them. Oh, and then we're brought back to the stage that we were on with a fade to white, since they don't know how to get us back otherwise. I like that Ares can just do this, and we accept it since he's a god. They do say in the story mode that Ares' power was weakened due to Dictator Superman preventing other wars, so I guess he can only do it in his domain. Also, for the crushing with his hand, he takes his sweet time to bend over to do the slap. I think a stomp would have been quicker, but hey, it gets the job done, and he gets to use all of his arrows.
Ares wins.
Only a fool would challenge me in my own game.
Number 9. Tron is one of my favorite fighting game characters ever. If she was the lead of this entry, I would talk about how cool her design and fighting style are without even needing to know her backstory in the Mega Man Legends games. But what is important is she commands an army of mini robots called the Servbots. They help her on and off the battlefield, where she fires them at the opponent herself, or just sends them in to attack the opponent the best they can. And they're involved in 2 of her big hyper combos, being the Lunch Rush, where they all trample the opponent, and the focus of this entry, King Servbot, where the bot by her side grows as tall as the screen, inexplicably has a hammer, and swings it a few times. It doesn't even sound painful, sounds more like a toy tool. However, that's just Tron's built-in assist fighter becoming large. The real entry is in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, when Tron made her fighting game premiere. They also gave a Servbot his own roster spot, both as a joke character, and I think they were just padding the roster since the sprite was already made for Tron, so why not? But he had plenty of new moves based around him being a bit clumsy and calling out his buddies. For his hyper combos, he has variations of the 2 involved with Tron's moveset, with one of course being King Servbot. Not only is it a quintessential small fighter becoming big super, but he does it in a different way than Tron's Servbot. Instead of just transforming, all the Servbots fuse together to become the big Servbot. I like this one better than Tron's King Servbot, since I like the super robot combination idea. I've seen this super so much, I'm focused on the mechanics of trying to get a follow-up combo, but for someone who hasn't seen it, this has got to be funny. It's just a giant Lego-like man with a goofy smile pounding a play hammer. If you laugh, yeah, I don't blame ya. Number 8. Anacaris is from Darkstalkers, but he got this super in Marvel vs. Capcom 2. He always felt like a pretty random inclusion in the crossover, but I am always good to get Darkstalkers beyond the most well-known characters, so I welcome him. His moveset is mostly just a Marvelized version of his Darkstalkers moveset, using his mummy wraps and grabs and sarcophaguses and so on, but one of his hyper combos was made specifically for this game, being Pharaoh Illusion. For this super, he all of a sudden appears in the background, and he's giant. Based on the attack name, it could just be a hologram, but that doesn't matter. We're looking at a big mummy man now. He won't do anything if you don't press any buttons to follow up though. You can control each hand with light punch and light kick moving the left hand in specific directions, and heavy punch and heavy kick for the right hand. The idea is to catch your opponent leading into the super so you can juggle them like a giant clown mummy for a few seconds. Though I always just threw this super out there raw to pressure the opponent with my giant hands and hope it catches them slacking. Considering how much Marvel vs. Capcom 2 recycled animations, I'm surprised Anacaris of all characters got a completely new sprite made for a moveset that already had enough supers without it. Not that I'm complaining. It kinda looks like the giant Anacaris from his Darkstalkers 3 ending, so maybe they were doing something with that, but there's enough differences here to make me think the Pharaoh got special treatment. Now let's get this treatment for any modern Darkstalkers references, right Capcom? Number 7. When in doubt, Super Smash Bros. Go-to for Final Smashes is just the Get Big motif. Giga Bowser was the first one I think of, but for maximum goof and WTF factor, I feel Jigglypuff stands out so much. Really, I need to do a whole breakdown of how Jigglypuff was treated in Smash Bros, since she has so many things that represent Pokemon, but just kinda do their own thing rather than imitating Pokemon mechanics. But we'll save that for the top 10 sleepy fighting game characters video I said I would do at one point. For Jigglypuff's final smash, she grows briefly, sits there for a second, and then releases all the air or whatever to blast the opponents backwards within the vicinity. Early Pokedex entries mention it inflating to sing since it's a living balloon creature, so I suppose this is taking that idea to the extreme. Smash Bros in general always played with the balloon part of her anatomy, giving her Kirby-inspired flight by puffing the air, so there is logic to this final smash. It feels random though, since they just made Jigglypuff's model bigger as a whole, rather than making it like Kirby where only the body stretches but the face and feet and whatever else stay the same size after he absorbs something. I like how later Smash Bros games would give Jigglypuff an angry face when doing this, possibly because anime Jigglypuff would angrily puff out when people fell asleep in reaction to her song. The one interesting thing about this final smash to me is it's good for small stages. At her largest, Jigglypuff can take up a whole platform, forcing the opponent to the edge, giving them no room, so when it's time to blast them, they can't really avoid it. Big stages though, you can take cover pretty easily, but Jigglypuff is crafty enough to beat you at normal size there. Number 6. Cetrion from Mortal Kombat is the elder god of light who took a mortal form because her mom told her to. True story. She still has condensed versions of her powers though, so she's throwing around the elements of nature and such. She can also change her size, but only during her fatality. However, we established in my grand finale super move list that people like to count fatalities as honorary super moves, so the more the merrier, it's relevant here. Being an elder goddess, I think she can just go back to her giant sit around and do nothing form at any time, so for the fatality, she uses her earth powers to smash rocks against you, which hurt more than the normal rocks during the match since it's the fatality window. Then she grows several feet to stomp on you, hot but also ouch, and then she's visible on earth from space to fire a mouth laser. And the end result is it hits the opponent right in the center to obliterate their body. It's funny how this is a rather tame fatality in terms of violence, where it feels more like an Injustice super move, being a big laser that doesn't dismember leading up to it. It's like they remembered it was supposed to be a fatality at the end, and they were like, wait, hold on, it has to kill, just do the blood and limb thing with it. I also like how unnecessary the stomp was in the middle. She had them trapped in the rocks, so she could have just gone max size to laser right then and there, but on her way up, she was like, hold on, screw you, okay, back to growing. The stomp even dislodges the rocks that were immobilizing the opponent, so it's almost counterproductive, but once again, you're all powerful during that fatality window. Otherwise, it would have just been a normal, non-lethal rock, laser, and big step.
Cetrion wins. Flawless victory.
Number 5. Injustice 2 has even more Get Big supers to choose from, and while we have a guy on the roster whose whole gimmick is changing his size, being the Atom, the cinematography and concept behind Scarecrow's super was way too good to pass up. Scarecrow fights you by drugging the field. He has a fear toxin that he sprays everywhere before the match, which makes you see your true fears, or at least things in a more scary light. So it turns him from a standard looking doctor with a sack over his head into a creepy Scarecrow man. Probably the most clever character design in why he looks and fights the way he does. So for his super, he gives you a lot of that fear toxin. It appears he breaks reality when he activates it by pulling you into a graveyard, and then he's all of a sudden giant, followed by him swinging you around on his hook for a bit before putting you back onto the regular field. Each beat of this super is so visually appealing. The starting shot of the hook dragging the opponent into the graveyard through a rift in space has a nice horror movie vibe to it. Then when he reveals he's a giant Scarecrow holding the opponent by the hook, we have a little pause to revel in his coolness. And then before you realize what's going on, he slams you one way, then slams you the other, and then goes to the middle, which is down into a burial site. And the tombstone is customized with the opponent's name. Excellent detail. I also like the wrist work on the second slam. He's so nonchalant here. And for the aftermath, the opponent flies down from the sky, apparently through the 6 feet under, and when Scarecrow runs back on stage, he's in his doctor appearance before upping the toxin as the opponent gets up to go back into fighting form. Great execution all around. It also builds on his NPC appearance from the first game, where if you knock the opponent into his room on the Arkham Asylum stage, he'll run up to the opponent and inject them with the fear toxin to once again make himself seem giant. He bounces them around for a bit and then sends them into the other room. I like how he doesn't care who it is. He's just like, ooh, a guest, I'm gonna screw with them. That being said, the Injustice 2 super completely rolls over that stage transition animation, and the Doctor will truly make you experience fear if you're scared of being slammed into multiple surfaces by a giant guy.
Scarecrow wins.
Number 4.
Jax wins. Fatality.
Forget Cetrion growing this big with magic that fit her established powers. Jax was the original Mortal Kombat character to inexplicably get big and just stomp on the opponent for his fatality. When I was younger, I never questioned the logic of this move since I thought, oh, Jax has those snazzy new metal arms from military tech. Surely this is some secret weapon too. But no, he just grows kaiju size to finish off the opponent with a clean stomp, and there's no reason outside of the devs thought it would be a good idea, since that's how most Mortal Kombat fatalities were thought of back in the day. Why did Liu Kang drop an arcade cabinet on you, or Katana have a kiss that causes you to explode? Just accept the goofiness.
Flawless victory. Fatality.
I will say, now that I'm observing it closely, it is pretty simple how Jax just grows unmoving from his default pose, and then goes off screen so they don't have to animate his body moving to stomp position, and then the foot just comes down with eventual PowerPoint animation. But the concept was too cool where I was like, I don't care, Jax became a giant, isn't that neat? This fatality sort of came back in Mortal Kombat 2011, but in reverse, where Ermac instead shrinks down his opponent to do the stomp. And like Jax, it's power they show no capability of doing otherwise during battle. Finally though, in Mortal Kombat 1, Jax is a cameo fighter, which is an assist fighter only, and this fatality makes its official return. And now we see, with the power of modern technology, we can actually focus on Jax the whole way through and see the process of the stomp, which, yeah, it looks like a normal stomp, but giant. I also like that they account for stages with a roof, since Jax sort of does a hunch over at the apex, which a 20-foot tall guy would have to do in these environments, so I appreciate the realism in my very unrealistic finishing move.
Fatality. Kung Lao wins.
Number 3. Giant Monkey Smash! Giant Monkey strongest there is! In short, for the non-Dragon Ball fans, Saiyans have the power to turn into Uzaru or giant monkeys with the energy of the full moon. They mainly use it to conquer planets faster. Much later on in the series, there's an artificial parasitic creature named Baby who takes over Vegeta's body, a Saiyan, and eventually harnesses this power that was seemingly defunct by this part of the series, Dragon Ball GT. While he was able to maintain this giant monkey form while in Vegeta's body, Dragon Ball FighterZ only makes it accessible in his level 3 super, where he powers up and it's kaiju time. He just goes berserk and smashes the ever-loving hell out of the opponent on the ground, and it's super satisfying to see these forms just go on the attack like this. When the giant monkey forms do appear in video games, their ultimate moves tend to be mouth beams and such. Like, come on, smash something, feels like wasted potential, so I'm glad this move does it. That being said, the smashing cutscene only plays when this super is used without him losing a teammate, as a reference to when he first turns Uzaru in the anime, and it seems like the primal side is in control and he's going to go on a rampage, but he soon reveals after that he has his full senses and it's Baby in control. As such, to reference the in control side of him, if at least one of his teammates is defeated, the super changes where he still goes into giant monkey mode, but now he fires one of Vegeta's signatures, the Gallic Gun, which is a beam with a cool pose. While this is stronger in-game and the beam is done by a giant character, the other version of him just going ham is my favorite variant of this super. All in all, it shows the simplicity of Giant Monster Smash can be more entertaining than some cleanly fired beam.
Is this your best? I was a fool for expecting more.
Number 2.
Dark Dimension. Welcome to my realm.
Now this game has a level 3 super involving a man whose powers are growing and shrinking, being Ant-Man in the Marksman Hawkeye's level 3 where they team up for a giant stomp, which you'd think would be the entry. But the epitome of cool in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is Dormammu. The very tall head-on-fire interdimensional demon is one of the most visually appealing characters in this game. Just raising hands to open portals or uplift pillars of darkness, maybe a meteor shower in there, he doesn't need to even touch the opponent. So of course, he has something devilish planned for his level 3. After creeping some darkness on the field, he traps the opponent in his dimension in sphere form, and with the power of great animation and transitions, the dimension zooms in and then zooms out to show the orb between Dormammu's fingers, and he just crushes it, releasing the opponent painfully. I used to not know if he was shrinking the dimension down to handheld size since dimensions are malleable like that, or if it was just a swaggy way to show that he's big now. But considering he can become giant because his power knows no bounds, I'll assume it's the latter. It's in the spirit of the list regardless, so it's here. I can't ignore super that looks and sounds this good. When he smashes the dimension that he traps you in, it makes this cool ass shattering sound effect. And the voice work on him saying, "Welcome to my realm," is so delightfully sinister, but in a calm way. Granted, he just sounds cool with anything he says in this game. And the English voice work overall in Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is some of the best voiceover in fighting games, period. Anyone interested in a top 10 character voices in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 list? Dormammu's got a good shot at making that list too.
You win!
This planet is mine, and now you will die.
For number 1, I went with the super that inspired this list, and it's the most recent of all of them, so it must have made a big impression, or recency bias. But let's assume it's big impressions for the big lady. And who is that big lady? Why, none other than number 1.
Everything is in my grasp. Now experience.
I need to do an updated lore entry on Ingrid eventually, since Street Fighter 6 knocked it out of the park and more with her moveset, lore, and personality, but this is a super move list where I don't go as deep into lore, so another time. What I will say, as longtime viewers know, I've been suggesting Ingrid for Street Fighter games since 2015, so finally getting her and having her be better than expected was a nice surprise. She's an interdimensional being who lives outside our reality, and she just joins in when there seems to be a disturbance or just because she's bored. As such, she has solar-based powers beyond our comprehension that she dulls down to our level for the sake of fun. Her level 3 lends the opponent her powers briefly so she can see what we can do with it, but she just uses that to embarrass the opponent by dodging any punches before blasting them downwards. When her health is low though, it turns into the critical art super, and we get the best cutscene ever. Instead of giving the opponent her power, she uses it on her own by plucking the opponent from a distance, as if them at a distance is their actual size close up. So it's a giant Ingrid holding a tiny opponent, or a normal size opponent and she's just massive because she can be as big as the cosmos or something like that. This has the funniest animations and expressions in the game, like the understandable shock on the opponent's face when the reality is shattered, while Ingrid is like, haha, fun! I couldn't stop laughing at this frame when I first saw it. Then she does her sparkle attack, but since she's giant, they're giant balls of pain instead that bounce the opponent around before she gives them a tiny one that brings them joy for a second before it explodes, and then Ingrid does her cool ass finishing pose. If you ever wanted to see Akuma smile, this is the closest you'll get. It's one of the most entertaining cutscenes in all fighting games. If I didn't have to end this video, I'm sure I would show it to you over and over again, but since I've exhausted my praise with it, let's crown Ingrid as the biggest winner of the Get Big Supers.
Everything is in my grasp. Now experience.
Now, what did you think? Did all these supers deliver on size and spunk, or were some of them too big for their britches? And what are some of your favorite Get Big Supers in fighting games, whether I discussed them or not? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.